So, today on the bench we have this, which is a soldering station, which is practically just a small soldering controller from like eBay inside of an aluminium box and then a 24-volt power supply. I bought this as a pre-assembled kit, so practically I searched for a T12 soldering iron because Heiko does make T12 soldering iron tips, which is, in other words, these things. And you can get a wide variety of these different tips, and they're using a direct heat or directly heated tip instead of the other type of heated tip, which is inside of this one, which is having the actual tip and then the heater separately. So here you have the thermal conduction between this heater and this tip, which might not be the most optimal thing in the world. It works, it gets warm, it's not the most temperature regulated thing, but it has worked for many years. It's a lot better than other solutions that I've used before. Now I wonder how much that was in frame. Maybe also wasn't at all in frame. But yeah, these tips are having the actual heater and the tip as two separate things, and well, the thermal conduction between them aren't always the most optimal thing in the world. So yeah, this works and it's fine, and you can get a wide variety of tips of this. Now, the Yahoo soldering station is mostly good because it has a hot air gun that's actually quite decent. This is like an added bonus, which this soldering iron is better, like a lot better than the other soldering iron I had before it, because the soldering iron I had before this was even more crap. So that's why I looked into these T12 tips, because you can get like a wide variety of them. You can get anywhere from like your typical chisel tips to conical tips to this more knifey one, and practically everything else under the sun, which is a nice thing. And so that's why I kind of looked at them, because that sounds like a good thing. And then I wanted a controller for it, because just having a handle with a soldering iron isn't that useful, because it needs power. So I looked at this, which is a controller. And this, you could buy this as a kit and build yourself. I bought the pre-assembled one because, well, I don't want to sit and solder together a kit, because that's a waste of my time. Or rather because, like, is a pre-assembled soldering station, is that a good thing? Like, if this is the first thing you buy, is it gonna be good? So what I searched for was like OLED T12 soldering station on eBay, and this is kind of what I got after a bit of searching. You have just the front board, but then you need a 24-volt power supply for it, and getting that might actually not be that hard, because you could just go and buy one. I think I have one up here somewhere. But so buying a 24-volt power supply isn't that hard. But now I wonder, what's the build quality inside of this thing? Because hopefully it's actually quite good build quality. Because if you buy a pre-assembled kit, because you might not have a soldering station, like, okay, I have a soldering station, so that's not my reason for buying this as a pre-assembled kit. My reason were like, if this is the first soldering iron you buy, because you probably don't want to buy a crappy soldering iron just to build together your good soldering iron. So if you buy this pre-assembled kit, is it any good? And that's my question. Now, okay, this one video of me taking apart this one single soldering station might actually not say all that much about the build quality. So first of all, what we have here is the actual front of it. Maybe I didn't actually need to take away all 4 screws, because there seems to be a split in the actual case. Let's just take away the top of the case instead, because that's a lot simpler. Oh, they have a piece of insulation between. That's actually a very nice touch. That's actually a tremendously nice touch, because this is metal, so this actually might be conductive if any of these becomes live, or one of them probably is live. I wouldn't be surprised if this one is, and this top of the capacitor could be live. So if you have this just sitting on top of here, then you might get arcing over to this. Okay, you could get arcing from the bottom down onto the board, onto the bottom there, but yeah, it's a nice touch. I like to see that. And okay, this I actually don't like to see. So okay, they've used the actual terminal here. Is like, it's decent. I don't know why they put in hot melt glue inside of here, but they did for some reason. And then they have some tape, so yeah, this is a bit lowish quality, but I've seen worse. They have grounded it, so they actually have a cable going over to ground against the case. So that's nice, and then they have the cable sneaking all the way over to the board here, grounding the secondary side. So okay, that's actually nice. Then we have the actual power supply. They have a big capacitor there. We have the actual transformer. I have no clue what the quality inside of this thing is. Hopefully it's actually quite good. We can see here that they actually have insulated, a bit of insulation. Let's see if I can zoom in on this. That was the wrong direction. Here. So as we can see, they have put insulation here on the actual wires for the primary. They don't have it on the sense wire, so that's actually quite bad. But the sense wire might actually be the outermost, so it might not need it. I don't know how they built this, but that they have some extra sleeving on those is actually a good thing. So that's a nice touch to see. They also have some filtering over here. So that's actually good to have a filter capacitor, a combo choke. They seem to have some PTC here. It isn't as big as this PTC, but hey, it kind of works. Mains filter cap, some switch mode controller, which is... I've never heard of that brand, but yeah. Small capacitor for the actual feedback circuitry. So this supply here is probably quite similar to, let's zoom out a bit, probably quite similar to the supply I'm trying to build. So it's probably doing something like this supply, where they have a bit of comm mode filtering, bridge rectification, ion mystic capacitor, then they probably have some switch mode controller. I would use an T12 because that's actually quite good. I used the 60 kWh version, and then you can have a 10k resistor to drop roughly 100 volts over it, because this is having a high voltage transistor inside of it, so that it practically takes this out of circuit when it's not needed, which is a really nice feature because that lowers your power consumption, and that this isn't constantly draining power into this capacitor. And then you have your feedback circuitry here with a diode to give a supply rail for this switch mode controller. I've talked on some analog outputs here because I'm using this to drive a multimeter, and then you have your feedback through the digital side, and well, it's nothing special. So this is roughly how, I'm not going to go into how switch mode power supplies work, but that's the gist of the situation. But because they're actually earthing this side, I'm actually questioning why they even have this capacitor here. This might just be an off-the-shelf power supply that's not meant to have an actual earth, though they're having an earth here. So that's quite interesting. But yeah, if it's non-earthed on this side, then you typically put in a capacitor so that you get good feedback. But if your main side is, or if your secondary side is earthed, to what I've read, this isn't tremendously needed. So you might still place it there for some reason. I haven't read into that all that much. There's an LED up here for some reason. Does this actually light up if we power this? Let's just for security's sake actually place on some screws on the front board. That is actually earthed, but security's sake I mean that it is solidly soldered into place, so you might not want to be checking on these wires all that much. thread that screw correctly. Let's take the top one instead. So yeah, so what this is having in the front of it is the actual switch mode supply, or not switch mode supply, the actual controller board that you can buy on eBay for like, I think it's like 10-15 euros, which is about $15-20 or maybe $10, like they vary a lot in price. Sometimes they're cheap, sometimes they're not. This screw didn't really want to go in here, why? Guess I have a less cosmetically pleasing screw there then. So yeah, I also bought a cable for it, just because why not? Because you need to be capable of having power to it. So we plug this in. This is a good recommendation. Plug in your actual thing that you're gonna plug in before you plug in the main side of it, because otherwise, if you're holding your hand here, you can get an amazing shock if this side is plugged in while you're trying to plug this in. So yeah, let's see. Does the diode here light up? Doesn't seem like it. So yeah, they have a diode over on this side, but it doesn't seem to light up at all. I don't know why they placed a diode there, but it is there, or an LED. So yeah, they have the mains rectifier, or not the mains rectifier diode, but a diode for rectifying the secondary side. And on a beefy heatsink, so they're apparently expecting a bit of power. That's quite nice. These wires, not really the thickest thing in the world, but they probably don't need to be, because after all, it's 24 volts and we're pulling, well, this thing could be, what is it rated to? Like 100 watts? Or 70 watts or something like that? I don't remember, but it's not a lot of amps if we're talking 24 volts. So, oh wait, I haven't actually turned this on. Yeah, the LED actually lights up. So yeah, let's turn off my bench lighting and we can probably see it a bit better. So yeah, we have an LED over here that lights up a little. So yeah, that kind of works. Let's turn this off before we kill ourselves. So yeah, this is so far actually surprisingly well built inside. So that's actually a nice touch to see. And yeah, I didn't take out the PCB, but it was actually like taped in place with zip ties, like zip tie holders, and those things are really horrid, because if you take them off, they're never going back again, and they will slip off after time. So this is, I wouldn't recommend, if you buy this off-the-shelf pre-made kit, then I wouldn't recommend tossing it into your tool bag and just using it as like a portable soldering iron or something, because it might be small, but those zip tie holders are not good at vibrations at all. So, okay, we have the soldering iron, which is gonna get really freakingly warm. I'm gonna place that there. And if we start this, then we can see it actually gets warm fairly quick. I would call that fully acceptable. and it apparently, or according to our readout here, we are not overshooting. Like, it actually doesn't really get properly up to temperature. So yeah, the regulation circuitry is a bit too good at not trying to overshoot. So, but that's better than having it overshoot. Okay, it's a soldering iron. If it overshoots a little on the actual temperature sensing part, which is not up at the tip, then the tip is not going to overshoot all that much. Though I've noticed a problem that if we are dragging this up all the way to like 480, then its regulation is really horrid. So it's not as horrid as it were before, but yeah. This isn't really the nicest regulation within the world, and that's just because this is radiating a lot of heat. And yeah, it sometimes overshoots so much that it actually becomes off range and it spews out an error. And I guess if we're going into here and saying that we want to have the buffer on, we go out of here, it's going to beep at us every time it goes over range, which is not all that nice to hear, because we can probably quite quickly realize that that's not going to be the nicest thing to listen to all the time. Though I myself like to solder down at like 240. So I'm going to set it to that. So yeah. But yeah, this iron seems to be quite nice. And the lead they've sent with for the actual iron is seemingly burn proof. Which is nice. So that's actually a very nice touch. And yes, it's like still 280 degrees C. So that's quite nice. I haven't found any setting for changing this from degrees C to Fahrenheit, so don't really know if that's a feature or not, but it seems a bit strange. So yeah, but it's a nice iron, and like that the T12 tips are good quality. Like it, I don't know if this is a genuine T12 tip or not, but that really doesn't matter because this should support genuine T12 tips, so I should just be capable of going out and buying one and plugging it in and having it work. So that's why I bought it. So I can practically get any tip I want, which is the really nice thing when you're having a soldering station. And you also get good thermal performance compared to this other iron, which has still actually quite good thermal performance, but not like this here can actually, like, it's not the nicest thing in the world. Like, I fully understand what Louis Rossmann says, that there's like a mile in the difference between these two, because this here is kinda crappy. This here, to what I've used, it's actually quite nice. So yeah. But yeah, that's everything we have on the bench today, other than a lot of junk. Okay, I've actually also done one other thing, which is I've put in some bench lighting, which is up here, so along the whole underside of the bench, just because that was a nice touch, because the bench was awfully dark without it. Let's see if we can get a good picture of how the bench actually looks with and without it. So this is with lighting, and if we turn it off, then it's like a lot darker. Though I could still turn on some work light, but it's like these spotlights, they're good if you need some extra light working up close to something, but other than that, I do prefer this new bench lighting, which is substantially miles ahead of what I had before. So yeah. And what I used for that is just some simple LED strip from eBay yet again. So you can probably buy a LED strip like this practically anywhere. So it has double-sided tape on the back side, and then it has LEDs on the front. So this is 12-volt tape. It works really nice. It's cheap and it works. But yeah, good day and see you in the future.